Another group of DEI hustlers have been exposed in the gaming industry for diversity. I have not heard of this collective, but maybe I have. Probably because these people change organization names the same amount that they change their underwear, or in their case, their preferred pronouns. But we have a video game corruption exposed, care of That Park Place, doing some great work once again. Games for a diversity caught in a heinous scheme for a radical pride agenda. Color me surprised. A shocking revelation comes to light regarding the practices of Games for Diversity, a Dutch company with ties to the Powell Group and Sweet Baby Inc. Oh my god! It claims to promote inclusion in gaming and appears to operate under questionable method. That Park Place is reporting on the findings and investigating by prominent entertainment analysts. Recently exposed by Master of the TDS Gothic Therapy YouTube channel. The company is under fire for allegedly publishing a deeply flawed research study in 2014 that flew under the radar until now. Wow, over a decade in darkness. Interesting. The study has been labeled by critics as biased propaganda rather than legitimate science. What's more, it uses children as guinea pigs and exposes them to games that focus on preferred orientation and matured issues. Oh, really, huh? At the center of the controversy is Menno van Pelt Dean, the head of Games for Diversity and the researcher responsible for the study in question. The research published on Google Scholar analyzed the game design process during the organization's Pride-centric game jams. Yeah, interesting. And it's funny how these scholarly reviewed articles, especially in these very, let's just say, interesting spaces like DEI policies, they just always seem to skirt by any rigorous testing. I mean, for as much as he's gone off the deep end in recent months, but James Lindsay, Helen Pluckrose, and Peter Boghossian, they're publishing of some incredibly hilarious studies, going on about the half decade ago at this point, well, probably even longer now, 2018, 2017, and on and around that area, really highlighted the insanity that goes on and how these scholarly studies ends up amounting to nothing but a hill of beans, while the surface level goal is to explore how diverse perspectives influence game development. A deeper dive into the study reveals glaring methodological flaws. Master of the TDS, a therapist and one of Gothic Therapy's hosts, emphasized the gravity of the situation. As a therapist, I know very well what peer-reviewed sources are. Peer-reviewed source means a lot of people have looked at it. It means it's a much more valid than other sources, at least you respected in the industry or in that specific field. Because in theory, it's supposed to pass through a bunch of qualified hands, but we know in certain domains that just doesn't happen. The fact that this is allowed to be published and has remained up boggles my mind because of all the things all the things you have done wrong. It is so biased and skewed that I can't even begin to tell people. The most glaring issue of the research is absence of a control group. I beg your pardon. You're studying a group and there's nothing to balance this against? Holy Christ. By failing to compare diverse teams to non-diverse ones, the study's conclusions are rendered invalid. Instead, participants were handpicked from agenda-friendly websites, academic circles, and similar sources, ensuring the pre-existing bias that skewed results from the outset. Master of the TDS didn't mince words when addressing this critical flaw. There is no control group. The guy is a researcher, and there is no control group. They've skewed all the results, and they've been cited 9 times. Every single study that has been cited cited it as being a peer-reviewed source. This means people with knowledge looked this over, realized that there was no control group, saw the results were skewed, didn't care, and published it as a scholarly article. Holy! This is one of the slides that they use. Like, what the hell are we doing, man? But shout out to that guy in the background with his, sign out there. And it's like, that's pretty powerful stuff. Okay, that wouldn't have looked out of place in a WWF Attitude Era crowd. The study content also raised eyebrows. Yeah, that reminds me of the Shawn Michaels. He has a certain illness. I can't quite remember, but yeah, that was up there. The game showcased that during these events were narrowly focused on themes tied to sexual orientation. Yeah, that's so great. We want to go ahead. Yeah, hey guys, we want to go test kids with these games about wieners and buttholes. It's like, okay, freaks. We just need to, before you go and do that. Okay, I know we don't have a control group or anything like that, but can we just go ahead and get you on this list where you have to go ahead and knock and inform your new neighbors whenever you move into a new place? Could you just go ahead and do that real quick? That'd be great. Thanks. Games Evolve were created during these game jams and showcased as part of a study's findings. They center around orientation and gender politics, forcing kids to engage with Pride content. Ugh, the stories include photos of children playing these games. Yeah, it looks like something out of The Wizard, if we're being completely honest, and a lot of these game jam games are just... in the video below, you can see gameplay clips from one of the games involved in the study. Yeah, I don't really want to, because it's like I've seen this type of indie slop before, and especially the stuff that comes out of game jams. It's normally unpolished. Like, you're dealing with, if you're unfamiliar with the term game jam, like, this is when a bunch of indie developers come together and, you know, try to develop something under a very controlled amount of time with very limited resources, and whoever has the best idea, they end up getting a grant, or they end up getting, you know, a production deal from a studio putting this stuff on. But yeah, that's normally how this stuff works, getting good indie ideas out there. It's just, we kind of see the ideas that they're trying to put forward, and, well, the game says all it needs to say about probably capitalism being bad, right? Like, that's what we're doing with this one. The video below is clips of the games. It features slurs, mature contents, and coarse language not suitable for children. However, Games for Diversity apparently saw no issue with exposing young people to such content. Yeah, of course, because they want to expose them to so much more. The highly specific nature of these games calls into question the inclusivity Games for a Diversity claims the champion, master of the TDS and writing Raven, went so far as to call the study propaganda. I mean, if you're going out there and you're presenting one side of the argument by making sure that there's no way for that side of the argument to be falsified, kind of fits that definition. Without a varied sample, objective methodology, or proper controls, they argue that the findings lack credibility. How many other studies have been affected by this faulty, disgusting, terrible piece of propaganda? And because that's what it is. It's not a study, it's propaganda. The only way I can explain this is that you did it intentionally. There's no other explanation. If you're a researcher of any validity, you should know better. You gotta do better, therapist. The fact that this study has been cited 9 times only deepens concerns about the influence on academic and industry discussions. Yeah, because just because the source, okay, the source wasn't fact-checked or peer-reviewed or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that. No, but the way that these other studies that cite said study can get away with it, it's like, well, see, I've got sources, okay, and I've been sourced before, therefore there's validity there, and it just becomes the literal echo chamber that people colloquially referred to all of these people, you know, talking together with their friends. They say enough bullshit and then it just ends up, you know, bouncing off the walls, and it makes it seem like there's more people interested in the subject and more people on their side than there actually is. The publication's presence on Google Scholar lends it a veneer of legitimacy that critics argue it does not deserve. Games for Diversity also made waves for its hand in helping to create a mobile game marketed to children about the magical drag performer as part of its game jam system. Oh, yo, what the? That's, yes, save your friends from what a positive test result. Gothic Therapy hosts, yes, have vowed to keep investigating and exposing any further misconduct. Yeah, because this is not just simply an affront to game development or to the perversion of children, but science as well. Like, what are you doing out here? You're perverting an already fairly perverted industry by trying to pervert a different type of industry and work your do perversion squared. Is that what we're dealing with? Menno van Pelt Dean's continued involvement in projects related to children, particularly in areas involving sensitive topics, has drawn sharp criticism. While no direct accusations have been made, Gothic Therapy has made it clear that they will not hesitate to act if further issues arise. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're focused that much on other people's kids, I mean, you know, where sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. Sometimes it's just dust masquerading as smoke. It identifies as smoke, so it gets that pass, right? But other times, and it's kind of like the whole male feminist thing, okay? You know, when you deal with people like this, okay, and they present themselves in a certain way, it's never really a shock if given enough time, where they end up coming out with several skeletons, and in their case, very, very child-sized skeletons in their closet. Just saying, you know, nothing's there. But would you be surprised if we're talking about this situation in another 6 months, and it's like, oopsie daisy, now somebody's going to be on a registry for real? This expose serves as a reminder to scrutinize organizations and their research claims carefully. Yes, when inclusion is used as a shield for poorly executed studies and propaganda, the industry and the very communities they claim to support suffer the most. Yeah, exactly, because this is just this whole, oh, my peer-reviewed, oh, my studies, what's your source, all of these bad faith arguments, okay? What's the old line, okay? You can find a statistic to back up any side of any argument. You can manipulate data in whatever way you seem fit in order for it to, appeal to your side of the argument. So yeah, appeals to authority. If you need to rely on those, it's an argumentation tactic that normally falls flat on its face. And hopefully, given these people's proclivities, these games for diversity types, these Menno Van Pelt Dean's associations and insinuations, if there's anything else, okay, well, no direct accusations have been made, like it says in the article right there. If there are any, okay, and if there is any proof that comes out, if there is some claims that end up getting fact-checked and peer-reviewed, yeah, hopefully the validity of your research isn't the only thing that falls flat on its face. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.